Welcome back to Rams Up, your favorite LA Rams podcast. We are part of the Fans First Sports Network. You can follow us on our YouTube channel as well at LA Rams Up. I'm your host, Mark. I'll be joined occasionally by my football gurus, Paul and Ian. Let's get to it. What's going on, Ram fans? Episode 587 here. I'm going to provide some additional thoughts on this Rams-Eagles game. Not a full-blown preview. We covered enough of that in our roundtable session. Also going to get through some news and notes. But first, episode 587, let's talk about a player who wore number 87. Now, must have been 200 episodes ago, I talked about Ricky Proehl. What a fun player to talk about. And then episode 487, I talked about Billy Truax. This episode, another wide receiver who wore number 87 for the Rams did not gain the notoriety of Proehl or Truax, but still remember him, Greg Salas. Played at Chino High School, and if you don't know where that is, if you're an out-of-stater, that's kind of northeast of Los Angeles, not quite part of the Inland Empire in San Bernardino County. Sort of kind of no man's land there across from Diamond Bar. But he played at Chino High School and then the University of Hawaii. The Rams drafted him in the 4th round of the 2011 draft. Steve Spagnuolo and Josh McDaniel were running the show there. McDaniel was the Rams offensive coordinator. That was the year they selected 2 wide receivers back-to-back there. Austin Pettis out of Boise State in the 3rd round. Greg Salas in the 4th. I guess we can say they missed on those 2, but they did hit on their first 2 picks. Defensive end Robert Quinn and tight end Lance Kendricks. Salas only played 1 year for the Rams, 27 catches for 264 yards, and then on September 1st of 2012, the Rams traded him to the New England Patriots for a 2015 draft pick, and Salas eventually played for almost the entire AFC East, the Patriots, and then the Jets, and then the Bills. Greg Salas, our number 87, our 3rd number 87 for the then St. Louis Rams. Now, right off the top here, I have to share that Eagles wide receiver Devonta Smith has been ruled out, a hamstring issue he's dealing with. That's pretty big news. Difficult enough handling A.J. Brown and him. Now, they also have the good tight end, great offensive line. Don't get too excited by the fact that Smith is out. But from a Rams perspective, maybe evens the playing field a little bit when the Eagles have the ball because it's a really good offense. Now, Rob Havenstein has been deemed doubtful for this game. If he can't go, I'm sure it's going to be Warren McClendon. Offensive line will be okay. It would be awesome to have Havenstein back, though. Still waiting for that game where our top 5 offensive linemen are in the game together. Speaking of the Rams-Eagles game, I watched a preview hosted by Colt McCoy, Jay Gruden, and another 2 gentlemen, and I have to tell you, how disappointing was that? 14-minute preview. I think 12 minutes were dedicated to the greatness of the Eagles. They talked about the greatest athletes they've ever been associated with, and then almost in passing, hey, Stafford's pretty darn good. Pretty disappointing, and I commented as such, of course. The only Rams they even mentioned by name, Stafford, Kupp, and Nacua. Not a single note on the Rams' defensive personnel, and a few rookies that are stepping up. As Ram fans, we've kind of gotten used to that, though. And even bigger news on the injury front, wow, the 49ers, man, it's a train wreck at this point. Brock Purdy ruled out of Sunday's game against the Packers in Green Bay. Nick Bosa also ruled out. And on top of that, Trent Williams, their great left tackle, is questionable. That's a lot for this 49ers team to be dealing with. Scrambling for a win. They're 5-5 at Green Bay. The point spread there has more than doubled, up to 5.5 now. Not looking good for the 49ers. And in Brock Purdy's place, Brandon Allen gets the start. Allen has played in 16 games, 9 starts in the NFL. The last time he completed an NFL pass, 2022 with the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, he was with the Rams for a short period. The Rams claimed him off waivers in 2017. He was inactive every game that year as the Rams' third-string quarterback behind Jared Goff and Sean Mannion, and eventually waived by the Rams and re-signed to the practice squad, but finally waived for good before the 2019 season. And how about those Steelers? That weather was something else. What a fun game. For a game that was kind of just had a lot of things going sideways for both teams. Jameis Winston went from the hero to the GOAT and back to the hero. And I'm telling you, have a lot of respect with what the Steelers have done this year. But if they don't get that offense squared away, they're going nowhere in the playoffs. That's my prediction. I did not feel good about elevating them into my top 12. They've been there hanging around for a while. I mean, they are first place in the AFC North. They just got done beating the Ravens. So yeah, they are a very good team, but really concerned about their offensive production, relying on field goals too much, although Russell Wilson has played really well. We shall see, but I'm still not on the Steelers bandwagon like some other folks. And another bit of big news, Daniel Jones released by the Giants, and I felt like he was overdrafted, but I also felt like he took more heat than he deserved. He was an average quarterback. He is what he is, but good enough to succeed if you surround it with the right talent. The team has good defense, all that stuff, but he never really got the chance with the Giants. Daniel Jones, free agent. Someone's going to snag him up as a very viable backup emergency quarterback for sure. So let's talk a little bit more about this Rams-Eagles game, Sunday Night Football at SoFi. This series goes back to 1937. The Cleveland Rams thumped the Eagles 21-3, embarrassed the Philadelphia Eagles. Welcome to the NFL, Philadelphia. Game history, the Eagles lead this series 23 wins, 20 losses, and 1 tie, but the Rams actually had the historical advantage until relatively recently, but the Eagles went on a streak, won 7 of the last 8. And remember, those were not good years for our Los Angeles Rams. We all know that. So not sure how much we should make of that advantage, that 3-game advantage the Eagles have, due largely to the last 20 years or so. The last time they played, October 8th of last year, Eagles 23, Rams 14. Jake Elliott had 3 field goals. Tutu and Puka both had TD passes from Matthew Stafford. Any games that we should talk about, any special games? Well, how about January 27th, 2002, the NFC Championship game, Rams 29, Eagles 24, Donovan McNabb versus Kurt Warner. Isaac Bruce had the Rams' first score, Marshall Faulk added 2 TDs, and the Rams headed to the Super Bowl. And if you're wondering how the Rams got to 29 points, kind of an odd score, and I was curious too. Do not remember this. They had gone up 22-17 in the third quarter on a Marshall Faulk run. They went for 2, trying to make it a 7-point game. That failed. Rams added another touchdown to get 29. 29-24, your final score. Odds on this game, Eagles by 3. I have seen it 2.5 in a couple places. Weather at SoFi Sunday night. I'm sure it'll be a little cool, but weather will not be a factor. Back in a second, talk more about this Rams-Eagles game. Let's do a little bit of a deeper dive into this game and the Philadelphia Eagles, the Rams' opponent on Sunday night. Let's talk about their coaching staff. Nick Sirianni, getting it done. Well, he's been getting it done except for the tail end of last year where it really fell apart. But they have one of the best defensive coordinators, a legendary defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, basically has a defense named after him at this point, and their offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, spent 5 seasons with the Cowboys and then over to the Chargers for 1 year working for Brandon Staley. And after that unit fell apart, that coaching staff was dismissed, moved over to the Philadelphia Eagles. I wanted to talk about their draft again real quickly because it certainly is going to come into play in this game. We talked about the 2 cornerbacks, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Edge rusher Jalix Hunt really hasn't been a factor yet. Will Shipley, the running back out of Clemson. Everybody loves him, but not much happening there yet. I think he has 19 carries on the season. They drafted linebacker Jeremiah Trotter Jr. out of Clemson, and that was actually a Rams draft pick that they used there, number 155 overall. He's a guy that Paul Wally and I really liked. If the Rams valued middle linebackers, or if they saw this Ernest Jones debacle happening, maybe they would have selected Jeremiah Trotter. He's a backup there with the Eagles at this point. A guy to keep an eye on, especially with Devonta Smith injured. Maybe Aeneas Smith, the wide receiver out of Texas A&M, gets some action. He has 3 catches on the year. Not sure if that's what the plan will be, but someone's going to have to step up for the Eagles. Maybe it's him. And the Eagles also drafted a guard out of North Carolina State, Dylan McMahon, 6th-round pick. Tried to put him on the practice squad, remember that? And the Rams poached him, put him on their 53, and there he has sat for this entire season, basically. Don't think he's gotten a snap on offense. And I remember Eagles fans were really upset when the Rams poached him. He had a really good preseason. Maybe the Rams have something there, but not happening this year. I thought he might have got the call before Logan Bruss, but it did not happen. Eagles beat the Commanders in their last game 26-18 after getting off to a slow start. Rams coming off a 28-22 win at New England. Both teams, interestingly, really struggle in the first quarter scoring points. So we'll have to see if they get off to sluggish starts in this one. Would not be surprised if that turns out to be the case. Now let's take a quick look at the Eagles season. They opened it up with a win in Brazil over the Packers. Remember, that was a game Jordan Love got hurt at the very end there. Then they lost to the Falcons, beat the Saints, and then lost to the Bucs. And then went on a 6-game winning streak over the Browns, Giants, Bengals, Jags, Cowboys, and Commanders. And at first I was like, 6-game winning streak, pretty impressive. And then I eyeballed that a little bit more, and I was like, wait a second. The Browns and Giants, the Jags and Cowboys are included in that. 4 teams that have really struggled this year. And the Bengals, another team that's under 500, although, as I've said many times on this podcast, I think they're a really good team. The results are just not there. And then there's the Commanders, pretty good team, but a questionable defense. So those last 6 opponents, yes, all wins. Their combined record, 20 wins and 43 losses. Well, with the Browns win over the Steelers, make that 21-43. I'm certainly not trying to minimize what the Eagles have accomplished this year. 8-2 record. I don't care who you're playing. 8-2 in the NFL is pretty impressive, but I don't think we should be in awe of this team. But then you look at the roster, especially on offense, maybe we should be. This is going to be a real challenge for our Rams defense. And who are their offensive leaders? Jalen Hurts. Hey, you get inside the 2-yard line, Jalen Hurts is going to score a touchdown. He has 12 passing touchdowns with 5 interceptions. He has added another 11 rushing TDs. Pretty impressive. And he's got Saquon Barkley back there, already over 1,100 yards, averaging 5.8 yards per carry. This might be his most impressive year, his most impressive season ever, and it must be driving New York Giants fans crazy. Now, who are their wideouts? A.J. Brown, 618 yards and 3 TDs. He's only played in 6 games, though. And then there's Devonta Smith, but he's out. So who picks up the slack for him? We'll talk about that in a second. We should not get too excited about that, as I said. They have some good backup receivers, a rookie trying to make a name for himself, perhaps. Still going to be a big challenge, but it does simplify the task for our defense, that's for sure. And this offensive line is very, very good, led by left guard Landon Dickerson, right tackle Lane Johnson, pretty darn good. Very solid offensive line. And on top of that, they got a really talented tight end, Dallas Goedert, 31 catches, 387 yards, and 1 TD. I fully expect him to have some critical catches in this game, unfortunately. On the defensive side, on the roundtable, we talked about their middle linebacker, Zach Bond, who's turning out to be a beast, 102 tackles. and they're raving about the two rookie cornerbacks, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, especially Mitchell. He is probably the one guy that could spoil the Rams' quest for a Defensive Rookie of the Year. Jared Verse has to be the leader, but, we thought the same with Kobe Turner last year based on production on the field. So it's up in the air. Quinyon Mitchell, pretty darn good, and DeJean, a more physical, a little bit more rugged defensive back, very good as well. Both teams had two high picks and went defense. Rams opted for front seven guys, Jared Verse and Braden Fisk. Eagles went the other way, two guys on the back end, Mitchell and DeJean. Outside linebacker Josh Sweat leads them with 6 sacks, and they got some really good guys up front, namely Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. And don't forget about cornerback Darius Slay. He was very good as well. And all that said, free safety Reed Blankenship leads them in interceptions. He has 3. Now, worth mentioning about this Vic Fangio defense, the Eagles do not blitz very much, 3rd least in the league. They do not bring pressure very much, 3rd least in the league. However, middle of the road sack-wise, so they still get to the quarterback at a reasonable rate. Not a lot of pressure, not a lot of blitzing, though. Now, team stats, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I just don't think it resonates very well on an audio podcast. Let me just say this. The Eagles' offense is overall very good, 5th rated in yards per game, number 1 in rushing yards per game. Has a lot to do with Jalen Hurts. Passing, not so much, only 22nd, but remember, A.J. Brown has missed a bunch of time. And points per game, 26 points, 6th in the league. And the Rams defense in the low 20s in all of the corresponding categories. A little bit better defending the rush recently, and they moved up to 18th in that category. Now flipping it, kind of the same deal. When the Rams have the ball, they're 8th in the league passing in yards per game, 21st in points per game, 17th in yards per game, and then the Eagles defense giving up just 273 yards per game. That's number 1. They really don't have a category that jumps out as a weakness with this defense. So the Rams offense is going to be a real challenge for them. But remember, this Rams offense has been turning it up a little bit with both their star wide receivers playing together. Hasn't happened a whole lot, right? And this offensive line pretty much intact and playing very well. So I don't know how much weight you can put on these stats, especially Rams offense versus this Eagles defense. And you also have to consider who the Eagles have played over these last 6 games during their winning streak. What am I trying to do here? Trying to give you some hope. The stats, if you look at them, do not bode well for our Rams. But if you dig a little bit deeper, I think you find some hope for our Rams. So what are my fearsome 4 keys to this game? What do the Rams have to do to come away with a win against a very good football team? Well, number 1, it's obvious. Do I need to say it? They need to slow down Saquon Barkley. 5.8 yards per carry. Are you kidding me? And the Rams especially have to limit him on first down. And you know what? I'm sure every team that plays the Eagles goes in with a plan, goes in with the intention of limiting Barkley, especially on first down, force Jalen Hurts to beat you with his arm. So the Rams have to figure that out. They've been pretty good at getting after the quarterback, and they've been much improved limiting the opponent's rushing attack. They got to get it done this week more than ever. Maybe Omar Speights will be a key guy here, getting warmed up. He's already proven he can play at the NFL level. Didn't miss a single tackle last week. Man, we need him to step up along with Christian Roseboom. Shut down this Eagles running attack, especially on first down. And that leads into fearsome key number 2, kind of tied together. Make Jalen Hurts beat you with his arm. Again, disciplined pass rush, and we've been pretty good at that. We've gone against so many quarterbacks, or is it just there are so many quarterbacks that are mobile and can extend plays and can beat you by picking up 11 yards on 3rd and 10? Seems like we run into these guys every week, and Hurts is another one. Disciplined pass rush, make him throw the ball, get to him a little bit, it's going to be tough to rack up a bunch of sacks against this offensive line and Jalen Hurts. So let's just limit him as far as extending plays and put him in positions where he has to pass. Going back to my fearsome key number 1, of course, limiting Barkley, especially on first down. And fearsome key number 3, flipping it to the Rams offense. They just got to produce. And I think the way to do that is to neutralize these cornerbacks, very good man coverage guys, very good at taking away receivers for an entire game. Quinyon Mitchell, Darius Slay, Cooper DeJean stepping up now. Creative play design. And Sean McVay's just going to be chomping at the bit to exploit a Vic Fangio defense once and for all. Put a 30 spot up on these Eagles. Not saying that's going to happen, but it's going to take some creative play design. Getting Kyron Williams involved in the passing game. Have we considered that? Or Blake Corum? That might be the way to beat this team. Not going to get any deeper into the X and O's without Paul and Ian to back me up here, but I think you know what I'm saying. Can't run a vanilla offense against this Eagle defense. Maybe get our tight ends involved as well. And fearsome key number 4, this is more of a prediction. I think our special teams had really made progress early in the year. They were so bad last year. And first 6, 7, 8 weeks, they were really getting it done. A couple of snafus here and there, but overall, much improved. Ethan Evans, Joshua Carty, our kick return game with Xavier Smith. Special teams has to help these other 2 units out in this game because there's a definite advantage statistically against our offense and against our defense. Maybe our special teams can pick up the slack here, and I'm predicting they will. Xavier Smith and Joshua Carty and Ethan Evans make some big plays for us. Flip the field for us maybe. And maybe a game-winning kick by Joshua Carty to make us all feel better about our kicking game. And that's my prediction. As I said on the round table, late kick by Joshua Carty wins it for these Rams, 24-23. That's going to do it for this episode. Remember, you can reach us at ramsuppodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget about our YouTube channel. Our handle is at laramsup.com. Till next time, keep the horns up, stay safe, and have fun out there.